Oh yeah! In this video, we are going to learn how to pick the proper method to solve a quadratic equation and then use that method. In a previous video, I just went over the recognition steps. So watch that video first if you haven't already, and then we're just going to now exercise those abilities here. So it says solve using any method. And apparently I want to capitalize the first letter in each word, so be it. So how do we solve this first one? You've got negative 3x squared plus 12 equals negative 15. Recognize that there is no b term, no x term, so we can isolate x by using the square root technique. So I'm going to undo the order of operations by subtracting 12 on both sides. And by the way, if any of these techniques are foreign to you, watch the lessons dedicated to solving them out, right? This is not a lesson where I'm going to reteach you how to do it. It's a lesson of recognition and then action. So watch the previous lessons on how to solve with each of these techniques. So this is the square root technique, isolating x. So I get negative 3x squared, the 12's cancel, and negative 15 minus 12 is negative 27. From here, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. So wheat. And that leaves me with x squared is equal to 9. Negative 27 divided by negative 3. Remember, when we take a square root of both sides, we got to make sure we have plus or minus the square root. Nice. And that leaves us with x is equal to plus or minus 3. Awesome. Which remember, that is x equals negative 3 or 3. That's two solutions. And if we plug, let's say, positive 3 into here, 3 squared is 9 times negative 3 is negative 27 plus 12 is negative 15. Nice. Okay, on to this next one. There is a b term there, so we cannot isolate x the way that we did in the last problem. And we need to get it equal to 0, because whether we're factoring or using the quadratic formula, that is the way to go. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. That makes everything equal to 0. Now from here, I'm going to see if I can factor. Are there any numbers that when multiplied, give us 1 that add to 10? Well, the only factors of 1 that are nice numbers are 1 and 1. So the answer is no. So we need to use the quadratic formula. Okay, so that's going to be x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so I write out the bank of values that I have. Let me do that first, actually. And then we're going to plug it in. So I've got a, b, c. A is equal to that invisible 1, b is positive 10, and c is negative 1. Sweet. So now let's plug it in. So we've got x equals the opposite of b is negative 10, plus or minus the square root. B squared is 10 squared, which is 100. I'm going to abbreviate some of the steps here. Minus 4 times 1 is 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. That comes from plugging a negative 1 and 1 into the equation, the formula. All over 2 times a. 2 times 1 is 2. And last but not least, our answer is negative 10 plus or minus the square root. 100 minus a minus 4 is 100 plus 4. So that would be 104. All over 2. And that's our answer. You can certainly write that as a decimal. I've shown you how to do that in a previous video. I'm just going to leave it as our answer. There's two solutions there because our discriminant is positive. How about that? All right, last problem. X squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Again, this is one to check to see if it factors because we can look at factors of 10 that add up to 7. There are 5 and 2. We'll multiply to 10 and combine to 7 if they're both negative, and multiplied they'll give you a positive 10 and add to a negative 7. So we factor it out, set it equal to 0, you get x minus 5 and minus 2. Remember that either of these should be set equal to 0, so x minus 5 is 0 or x minus 2 is 0. And we solve by adding 5, right? So I add 5 to both sides. That gives me 5, and I add 2 to both sides. That gives me 2. So x equals 5, where x equals 2 is my solution. This video was more about showing you how to recognize what method to use. So you should be listening to the thoughts coming out of my mouth so that you understand what thinking you can be doing to determine what solution technique to use to solve quadratic equations. That's it, peeps. It's been real. See you next time.